I showed you something similar than this one. Well, nevertheless, it has been distinguished between an outer evolution and an inner evolution. The outer evolution is naturally very much that of science, coming from the mineral kingdom to the vegetal, to the animal, and to the human kingdom. It means from earth to water, to air, and to fire. This ends here in what we would call the man, the human being. Those who think that there is nothing but the physical world and the laws of physics and chemistry done by this so-called outer evolution. But those who, for thousands and thousands of years, thought that if there is something created, there must be a creator. We call it nowadays God. And we would like to go that man goes towards the soul, the spirit, eventually so as the ego. The ego is a very controversial term that they think in the way of the egomania or something like that. No. There is indeed an evolution occurring in the inner, and the frontier between the outer and the inner is the skin. The planet Saturn is connected with it. Venus is connected also with the skin, but only from the point of view of beauty. But if we take the planet Saturn, which is controversial for many, it is the planet of misfortunes, of melancholia. For the others, it is the frontier between life in the solar system here on Earth and what could go beyond the understanding of the solar system. So Saturn, for some, is the planet which they curse, and for some, which they figure out to be the greatest as a teacher. But what can we learn from Saturn? Knowing that you learn always from the opposite side. Saturn opposes the two lights which build life, the moon and the sun. So Saturn is the enemy. The enemy may be in a way that it goes farther away. It is known as the planet of death. Therefore, whatever has been created must die, or what others think, a transformation may occur. A transformation, right? Therefore, towards a higher and a higher evolution. We come to the idea, naturally, that here, morality, I distinguish myself between morality and ethics. Ethics are inborn in a human being and follow nature. But morality is connected with the laws of the community. Therefore, what could be moral in one community becomes immoral in another community. Morality has to do with the greater needs of mankind here on earth. Ethics would go beyond. In the dictionaries, they do not distinguish between morality and ethics. Let's take it that we would distinguish and we would tell we would like to be ethical people, which could bring us in conflict with the communities or with morality. Therefore, we should not use the two in the same way. But let's go one step further and ask yourself, what is the purpose of life? This is the eternal question. From where we come, what are we doing here, and where do we go? Naturally, nobody has been able to answer these questions. Everything is only an idea, a theory. But one thing we know, that the astrologer must have a clearer idea about these problems. If not, he is only a fortune teller who can maybe talk about the events on a physical level, but not to go beyond, not to take too seriously the receiver, the ascendant. Now we know very well that the ascendant or the horizon represents the position of the moon by conception in the prenatal astrology. Now, we go out with the idea in the Saturday classes that naturally there is more to life than that what we know or that what we could ever know. But we know very well that there are planes. We talk in a very simple way about the three ones: the physical body, the lowest, the spirit as the highest, and the soul, the moon, in the middle. The so-called spiritual evolution is a wrong expression. We should call it the evolution of the soul, of the instinct. The sun realizes the instinct. Therefore, if you go here, right, you should have the soul and the spirit and the ego. The ego is taken as the fire, but for us the spirit is also fire, the soul is water, and the earth eventually the physical. But it looks good if we have here 4, this is constructed by a human being, and this, you see, there is a polarization. The highest, the outer evolution, fire, may become the lowest, the earth, in the inner evolution. The air would go with the soul, the water with air, and the earth with fire. It doesn't make too much of a sense, basically, although it looks good and very attractive. But basically, what do you gain by it? What do you gain by it? Not too much. You gain only the idea that many people try to find a sense for life, the purpose of life. If you would ask me what is the purpose of life, I would, as I always tell, each question contains the answer. The purpose of life is life. Now, you can again ask, but what is life? What is it? It's a birth, it's a death, and an interval between these two, which we call life here on earth. But the metaphysics will tell, don't call it here on earth. That on earth you have only your feet. Your head already is away from the earth. Therefore, a fiery person does not want to be here on earth once more, but the spiritual evolution, nevertheless, is a little bit difficult. Maybe the best would be to take a horoscope and to analyze it. Now, you have to decide, first of all, to have a general impression of a force. This one is a highly difficult chart that we do have here 3 planets conjunct, all the 3 for the 12th house, Saturn retrograde, Pluto retrograde, Mars retrograde. Here, in the sign of Leo, we have a 4th planet, Mercury retrograde. What means retrograde? Turning back, turning away from what? Maybe from the so-called practical approach to life. Therefore, not necessarily finding that everything has to be judged from the outer evolution. Incidentally, if you have a horoscope in which the outer evolution is very strong, a retrograde planet automatically will be connected with something negative. Therefore, every judgment answers basically a question. If somebody would ask the right questions, astrology would be able to answer, not necessarily the astrologer, but astrology, the horoscope, if you can decipher it. So you are going to tell, you see these three planets, and you would have the idea they must be an hindrance. They must be an hindrance. But another person would come and would say, no, this is a blessing. So you have to make up your mind. What should you tell? What should you figure out? Is it a blessing or is it a hindrance? Your answer should be, it could be a blessing in many ways, but each blessing will show also hindrances. That if you can evolve, it is a blessing. If it takes you away more of the possibility of evolution, it is a hindrance. In any case, if you take the outer or if you take the inner, you must go on with the idea that evolution occurs. Therefore, if you are talking about the involution, what does that mean? That you come out with less than with advancing age than you had in the beginning. I had here yesterday a pupil who studied here maybe 10 years ago with the most interesting profession. She works with handicapped ones whose IQ is 30. 30 is so low that they would not be able to survive without being fed, educated continuously, under surveillance, and so on. Now, what prompts such a person to go for such a difficult approach? She is a psychologist, social worker. She has a PhD. She must have a lot of an inner evolution. And the evolved first stops and helps the others to go higher and higher. The whole metaphysical approach is very complicated. That someone will tell that what you consider a hindrance is a hindrance. And so others will tell, no, every human being who wants to undergo an inner evolution must count with hindrances in the outer world. But you are going to ask yourself, where can you see that if the person will evolve or will not evolve? And you are going to tell by studying the house of the person, his first house, from where we judge about the personality, the first one. So you find here the first one, and you find there the most humble of all the signs, Virgo, with the ruler to be in the sixth house from the ascendant, but also in the sixth sign. We said you have a complex picture if a planet would be in a house which would not correspond to the zodiacal sign counting from the ascendant. The sixth sign from Virgo is Aquarius, and we do find here Mercury in the sixth house in the sign of Aquarius. But no planet works by itself. Each one will work together with a dispositor or with the dispositors. Nowadays we know that the sign of Aquarius is given to Saturn as the ruler and to Uranus as the co-ruler. We mentioned already Saturn, but we see that Uranus here is in the 10th house, the 10th sign from the ascendant. It is in a mutual reception with Mercury. The destiny belongs to Mercury. So you are going to tell, you see here the two rulers, and you would prefer Uranus to Saturn. Why? Then we have decided, judge always first the quantity of a planetary influence. In an angular house, it would be 100%. The succeeding 50, decadent only 25. We are having here Saturn in a decadent house, in the 12th. Now, we are going to tell that if you look to this ethics, the planet of ethics is naturally Jupiter, which in this horoscope is in the angular fourth house, is square to the ascendant in Sagittarius. Therefore, a very powerful Jupiter, the planet of ethics, in a good aspect to Mercury, in opposition with Uranus, in, if you want, dry aspects from the three planets. In Leo, it is also in trine with Venus. The horoscope shows that the Sun in Pisces, in the sign which belongs to Jupiter and to Neptune, Jupiter is here stronger. So you are going to tell to yourself, don't let judge so easily. Don't take it as a hindrance, that a hindrance, if we can overcome it, is not a hindrance. But you are going to point out, nevertheless, that this must work out in a negative way, this triple conjunction between Pluto, Saturn, and Mars. Mars here is in honor of triplicity. Okay. So, you are going to judge, maybe in the outer world, the Saturn influence will manifest itself in shyness. In shyness. The more so as the sun is in Pisces. Therefore, in shyness. If you see, not only the sun is disposed by Jupiter, but also the moon, at the end of the third house, we should be yet considered the third, but it is in the sign which is on the cusp of the fourth. So you are telling to yourself, she may show some disadvantages in the outer world, but she could not consider these as a hindrance. A hindrance would automatically mean that the person becomes hostile to the other human being. That if we are again going to the evolution, we may say one of the great philosophers from antiquity, Epictetus, that the simple person accuses the others, an intelligent person accuses himself, but the wise one accuses nobody. So, if the horoscope would have been that of a simple person, the person would have had a so-called resentment. But no, in her profession, which is a nurse, she worked out the opposite. She's very helpful to mankind, and I would say that she spends more time in the church with spiritual evolution than many other people who are church goers. The church there helps her in her spiritual evolution. She studied astrology. She is not short-sighted. She knows her own shortcomings. She knows. But I have never heard her to complain. I have never seen her to be unfair to life or to other people. So you are going to ask yourself, is she a sadist or is she rather inclined to masochism? I do think that neither one of the two should be applied for a person who goes for higher evolution. She is a person who finds that life has a meaning. She is not going to read all these modern junk books where you find from the beginning to the end the keys to human life. She is not a child. She must have an excellent intelligence, Mercury in a very close line to Uranus, a trine and a mutual reception give a fantastic mind. Okay. After that, we do find that Mercury here is connected with the three planets, Leo, by sign also with Neptune, certainly by sign and by aspect with Jupiter, the sextile. It is connected with Venus, sextile. The horoscope is beautiful. So you have here a wonderful example of a person who, in a very subdued way, goes for higher evolution. Never in a hurry. In the hospital where she works, she takes on the most difficult assignment. She has been working for the incurable ones near death. And one day I told her, why don't you ask for another assignment? Don't go only for those who are near death. That I have seen her very, very disturbed with youngsters, early 20s, have been dying on cancer or other graver illnesses. Now she said, okay, and she is now with those who have only the heart. Very, very difficult. Then you have to be there continuously. She's a very hard worker. Now, he must have an inner evolution. But the great judge is not from there, what I said, but naturally from the impact of the sun and the ascendant. The sun is here 100% influencing that it works already for the 7th house and by ricochet influences also the ascendant. You find here a given rightness. The sun in the 12th sign, the sign which belongs to Jupiter and to Neptune. You have here in the wintry sign the sun and Mercury. In the fall, you have Jupiter, the moon, and Neptune. In summer, the 3 planets in Leo, and in spring would be Uranus and Venus. She is not married. For her, it must be a problem, as actually the horoscope is with the normal 5th house. It means Earth and the ascendant, and again Earth in the 5th and Earth in the 9th. Therefore, no interceptions. The horoscope, yes, she has. No, excuse me, she has no interception here. Therefore, the horoscope is outspokenly powerful. Can you expect that such a person will have a harsh word? Or if you make her angry, that she would respond with anger? No. She had difficulties with her mother, with her parents. she came up and asked me, and I said, as long as you have parents, they're going to consider you a child. And maybe the parents ask themselves if she's not overdoing by being so kind to people, so subdued. Now, here, the fourth house is good. Therefore, certainly the parents cannot be accused. The father eventually is also good, could also not be accused. Right? So, if I would see such a horoscope, it would give me the key what means an evolution. What means an evolution? Therefore, the personality not only overcomes the triple conjunction. For another person could be a disaster, but eventually she goes for it to solve it. She works in a hospital. Therefore, she faces the problem. She is not afraid of it. I would consider it to be absolutely nice, and I would understand the person. Evolution would show not to be afraid of life, but to integrate also death. You have to go out with this wonderful saying, if God with me, who is against? Therefore, the person of a strong inner evolution make it for him that he suffers. He is not going to rebel. Epictetus was a slave, and his master wanted to try out how patient he can be. And he started to twist, gave an order that his foot is twisted, or his leg, and at a given moment, Epictetus said, Master, my foot broke. The greatest silence. You can imagine that he was considered to be worth to become the teacher of an emperor, who also wanted evolution. Not all people go only for the outer evolution, but people who go for the inner evolution found it much better not to communicate their own idea to the mass. They are satisfied by giving an example. They don't want to go beyond. They give an example. And naturally, the third house is the house of brethren, brotherhoods, sisterhoods, where people of the same interest came together. they did not want to give it out. But nobody has been accepted without proving that they are fearless. This fearlessness, in a most serious way, is yet tried on some men who want to become, let's take it, the witch doctors. The witch doctor has a tremendous inner strength. Therefore, in Africa, they put the one who applies to become a member, then usually it is inherited in the families. A witch doctor, I told you, no, they put him nose to nose with a dead one, hands to hands, they bundle the two together, they put them in a kind of a cave, and after 1 week they come. If he functions normally, he is accepted. If not, it was his desire, and he's not going to be accepted. Therefore, the so-called inner fortitude, the inner fortitude, is the key to the inner evolution. How, I don't say forceful you are, but how much of inner fortitude do you have? When in Greece, one of the senators wanted to prove how good a patriot he is, he asked for burning coal and he put his arm above, in the arm burned, showing he is not afraid of suffering. Now, the Saturn Plus is seldom going to be able to do it. There must be more to it than Saturn. So you are going to ask, which planet could it be? Which planet could show this fortitude? Which one? That would be a tremendous distinction. Is it the fiery triplicity, the complete fearlessness? Is it Jupiter, which automatically is not only connected with the 9th house, but also with the 12th? Nowadays, you are going to ask yourself a lot of questions, which would be hard to answer. What I would always consider Jupiter to be necessary. It is the planet of justice, and if something is just, people are going to do it with this fortitude. Physicians shows very often the fortitude by belonging completely to the profession. One example was Pasteur, who was not a physician, but who found a cure against rabies. but he has 6 planets in Capricorn. Therefore, is it the Earth which can give also these powerful personalities? Now, it would be hard to tell how you can accept such suffering. You had many people who tried out and themselves or who became the guinea pigs. I had here one which was the first person to undergo the cyclotron. He naturally developed cancer. He developed cancer and he knew he is going to die. He met a beautiful girl. There were 2 sisters. He married, both have been beautiful, married one who studied, both sisters studied astrology here. And before he died, he married her and left her all his fortune. He talked very fearlessly about his forthcoming death. The girl had a miserable horoscope. I showed it to you. The moon, Saturn conjunct in the 6th house in Cancer. She became a dope addict and she died about 23, 24 years old. They found her with a burning cigarette in bed, and naturally the verdict has been she fell asleep. But her boyfriend, after the husband died, was the so-called Mr. Greenwich Village, a dope addict himself. And I do think that he has been with her, and when he started to burn the bed, he just saved himself. But they found only the girl. Now these are stories where you do find the 2 extremes. The one who I asked continuously, please give up the drugs. The drug addict does not solve a problem. If we go to Aleister Crowley and his book, he has not been able to solve his inner problems. He had no fortitude. He had a tremendous courage. He went to the Himalaya. He has been an excellent mountain climber. He was a man with an unheard knowledge, but no inner fortitude. So you are asking yourself, where is this inner fortitude? The fortitude of the soul. And you are going to tell it must be the moon. It must be the moon. Right? So, you are finding here this also moon in Sagittarius. you are finding the moon in Alistair Crowley's chart in Pisces. In Pisces. The horoscope of this lady who in the state of New Jersey cooperates with the police to tell where dead people, the bodies, could be found hidden. She points it out. But she studied here for long years astrology. And I know her horoscope. And I know that she's a highly afraid person. And we keep in touch where she has some clients where she feels we cannot give the right answer. She sends them here. She asked me once, what should she do? She had a boyfriend who was about 17 years younger. And he wants to marry her. I said, age differences do not matter. But after the marriage, he wanted to have children. And she had already 3 children, rather grown up. And she didn't want. And I said, you must have that he is a Greek, and the Greek must have a child. I mean, they go for a family. She said she wants to postpone it. I said, the more you postpone it, the older you are going to be. Okay. So, she became pregnant. And after that, she suffered tremendously. She went to the doctor, and I told her, take watermelons. And the doctor said, that's the most intelligent way. Watermelons, right? That all the toxics are going to be eliminated. But as she knew that she could have difficulty in bringing the child to the world, she asked me when. That seemingly the planets have not been good enough. So it has been studied, and I gave her the answer. The boy is an excellent boy. Astrology can be very, very helpful if you apply it the right way. Let's have a little time, and what questions do you have? Do you have a question? Pardon?
Not right now.
Does this horoscope represent inner evolution much more than outer evolution?
I'm going to ask you, do you have a question? It represents inner evolution to a degree where the outer evolution is neglected. What would be the outer evolution? A sign for outer evolution.
Family.
Family. Therefore, you add a link to that what you call life. Is it? Therefore, today I said the meaning of life is life. Now, if you think that you started it and it ends with you, you are wrong. Life has been given to you and you continue to maintain it, right? The fifth house is the house of children. One outlet for the first, and the other outlet is in the ninth, the house of God, higher knowledge, religion, philosophy. If she wanted to evolve in the outer world too, she should have got married. The craving for marriage. She has here the sign which is ruled by Saturn in the 12th, which would show somehow misfortunes in her emotional life. She transforms it into love for God, metaphysics, and her profession. I told you that it's not out only for the church. He goes beyond the church. And she is incidentally living above the church. But she is very tolerant. Very, very tolerant. And she has been misled. She has been hoping that she is going to be married, but she didn't show the practicality of the girls from a country in Europe where the girls have in their pocketbooks always a little bottle. And you know what the bottle contains. Acid, right? And if a man promises something and doesn't keep it, the bottle will be opened and thrown to his face. That would be a practical approach if you want. In France, during decades, a woman who killed with a gunshot the man who promised and didn't keep it was not judged to be guilty. But such a person will never do. She's very good looking, and I would call the inner evolution is everything for her. Yes.
It looks like she suffers a lot in this horoscope. Is that true? Does she do a lot of inner suffering?
She never brought it up. She did. I know only she worked in a hospital on the west side, and she wanted to come to the east, where she had her friend. I told her, why don't you apply she applied and she has been naturally received. Now she had the possibility to accept it or not. And she said, how can I leave the hospital where I work? I said, but for heavens, how far do you want to go in being duty bound? You are going to find that other job. And why shouldn't you stay with your friends? But the inner sufferings mean very little to a person who evolved. She has to give an example. The inner suffering for a highly evolved person could be only if she comes in conflict with her own values, right? Therefore, not with morality, but with the inner values, with her ethics. And there are problems where you do come in conflict. I know such cases which are insoluble, but the person nevertheless does rebel. Such a case is, which I know, a very nice woman whose mother, the mother must be in her 70s, is one of the worst which I've ever seen. Selfish, no values, nothing. The daughter is married to a university professor, psychiatrist. The daughter has already a grown-up child, and one part is the husband and her own child, and on the other side the mother. She feels that she must help the mother, and often I told her, don't make it to the expense of your marriage. Then your mother has no values. One of the worst horoscopes which I have ever seen. The mother wants to be remarried, has two suitors, the one whose legs are getting more and more bow-legged. He has to undergo an operation sooner or later. And she said, he wants to marry, but he cannot go out and dance with me. I want to dance. Now, the other one also, it's terrible when you find these problems of a person, right? Not to be able to decide. For me, the decision is easier. That I would go by save the child. You agree with me? Okay. But I have never seen that the child should hesitate between her own child and her own mother. Right? The child comes first. And the mother is a terrible person. I have seen many people